So before we get started on our off-campus housing and services presentation, I want to find out a little bit about you and who you are today. So actually, my first question is, what programs are we in here today? So I'm going to launch a poll, and I want you all to let us know. Go ahead and choose your major. Which program are you in? So we can kind of know who's here with us today. Okay, looks like 16 of 17 have participated. Is there maybe one more person that wants to answer? I'll give you about 20 seconds. Oh, 17 out of 17 have participated. Let's end it and let's share the results. So as you can see, we have mostly today our data science majors. Congratulations, by the way. Our information science majors. Congratulations, by the way. And our health informatics majors. So, these three programs are highly ranked in the United States, both in Texas, the health informatics program is ranked #1. And in the nation, it's in the top 10. The information science program fluctuates inside the top 20 of the nation every year, different ranking categories and different US World and Report and different organizations that do the rankings put us in different places. And the data science program was just ranked, I don't know if you know this, Laura, but it was just ranked #2 in the country by Fortune magazine.
Uh-oh.
You know who beat us? Can you guess who beat us?
Oh, I absolutely cannot.
Harvard.
Well,
Well,
okay.
Harvard, yeah. So, and our program is much bigger than theirs. So, if they were really looking at all the factors, maybe they wouldn't have even beat us. So you all should be very proud of the programs that you have entered into. As you can see in the poll, we also have a learning technologies program. And that is a combination of, we have both on campus and 100% online. And usually it's the domestic students that choose the 100% online program and the international students that do the on-campus program. And the library science program, that tends to be mostly almost 100% domestic students, and it can be 100% online. And then the MA in linguistics, that's face-to-face. So you do have to be in Denton going to class at Discovery Park. Okay, let me stop sharing. So we welcome all of you. If you want to drop in the chat your major, let's see who is which major, because this could be helpful. Let's make sure you send it to everyone in the meeting. Go ahead and drop your name in the chat and put your major. This could be helpful for making connections of people when you get here that can, you can ask them, help, I need help. So it's a way to start networking. Anyone want to drop their name, their major in the chat? Are we still waking up? Well, it's evening. There we go. Thank you, Sudeep. So MS Information Science. Sudeep, what's your concentration? And Rohini, thank you, Rohini, in health informatics. Lots of health informatics. I see data science. So you all can kind of search in the chat while we're going through the different parts of the presentation and reach out to some of these people, send them a direct message and say, hey, I see you're a data science student, so am I. Do you want to perhaps room together? Or do you want to perhaps meet up and study? Did we get the concentration from? So if you're an information science major, you could also give us your concentration. Maybe you're doing the general program. Maybe you're doing information systems, or maybe you're doing health informatics inside the information science program. Feel free to drop that in the chat as well. Nice to meet you all. Oh, information systems is Nitish. Okay, great. Another information systems. That is a very popular one among our international students. Okay, so now I'm going to launch another poll. This one is to find out, do you already have living arrangements? And the reason I'm asking is because if you've already made living arrangements, maybe your experience can help other people that are here. You can say, oh, I went to this apartment complex. I got an apartment really easily. The cost is right. And that can be helpful to other students who have not made living arrangements yet. So let me go ahead and launch that poll. Hold on, I have to stop the other poll first. Okay, so what are your living plans? Tell me, do you have a place to live in Denton or DFW already? And DFW means Dallas-Fort Worth. Some people do commute from just outside of Denton. Already I have 9 out of 9 saying no. Oh, we have a yes. No, we have no yeses. So far, everyone's saying no. Okay, 14 out of 14 have answered. I'm going to show the results. So this means we need to start planning, right, Laura?
Yes.
Okay, so the apartments in Denton don't stay open for long. So Laura's going to help us find some places that still have openings, and we're going to talk about some of that. Okay, let me stop sharing that. And then let's go ahead. And the last question I want to know is, when you're thinking about where you want to live, you have to think about some components of the living space. So let's see what's important to you. Like, what types of places, what factors do you take into account when you're looking for a place to live? So go ahead and choose. You can choose, I think this one you can choose multiple choices. So we'll just see what's the general consensus that's the most important point. 13 out of 21 have answered. More of you that can answer. Go ahead and choose the most important factors for you when you're choosing a place to live. I assume that a lot of you are living with your parents right now, and you're coming to the United States and you're going to be living maybe for the first time away from your parents. So even though you're graduate students, so you're mature, right? You're mature and you've had some good life experiences. You've probably finished your undergraduate degree. You definitely have, or you're about to. Okay, so we've got 16 out of 22 who have answered. Does anyone else want to answer here before I end the poll? Maybe you're not sure what's most important to you. Okay, let's see. Let's see what the consensus is. So as you can see, Laura, being near campus and having a safe neighborhood are two of the top ones. Now, the lucky thing about Denton is that in general, it's safe, right, Laura?
Yes.
Yes. So we get voted each year as one of the safest college towns in the United States. And that's very consistent for many years. So luckily, UNT and the surrounding areas are safe. Low cost is also important, it looks like. So, but near campus beat low cost. So maybe some of them are more interested in being close to campus and perhaps not having to drive or buy a parking permit then and they're willing to pay a little more. Probably depends on the person. I know everyone has a different situation. Okay, so let me go back. I have one more question for you. So what type of place do you think would be best for you? And there are many different types of places in Denton to consider. Here's the last poll. So of all the types of places, you could have a 1-bedroom apartment alone, right? That's going to be a little more expensive. You can share an apartment with a roommate or 2 roommates, and that's going to be a little more affordable, but you have to deal with roommates. You can share a house. They do have houses. Laura, I know you probably you don't know who's renting, right? As far as houses go.
No, I don't know specifically if like families are opening up rooms. A lot of times you can find those ads though around campus. People will come and put stuff like on free speech boards in various buildings and rooms on campus. A lot of times in bathrooms for some reason.
Oh,
You'll find them like on the back of a stall,
I guess everyone uses the bathroom, right?
need roommate, here's some of the criteria, and you can take a phone number. So that's usually how you find those types of situations. It's going to be more word of mouth.
Mhm. So I guess as a person coming to the United States to live, you have to decide, are you willing to come in with kind of not your situation arranged, but you're going to stay in a hotel, or you're going to stay with family members. Maybe you have family members around the DFW area that you can commute for a while, and then you'll find a situation you want. Or do you want to have it locked in, apartment ready to go, where you know you're coming here and you're moving in that day? Many different scenarios to consider, right, Laura?
Very many.
Okay, so let me share the results. Here we can see that some people would like to share a house with many roommates. So that would be a good point here to make some connections. If you want to, and then you can go, I mean, online, I'm sure you can look Denton area, people renting houses. I know a couple students that did this exact scenario and they liked it a lot. They get more space, they get a yard and things like that. And then they don't have to deal with immediate neighbors on both sides of themselves. Other people say they want to share an apartment with a roommate. This is the more typical living arrangement, don't you think, for students?
Yes, this is going to be the most popular and the most cost effective.
Okay. And then finally, one person says they want a 1-bedroom apartment alone. So that's no problem. You can find that too, as long as you're willing to take on the burden of the costs by yourself. Okay. I'm done with the original polls. We do have a roommate poll that's going to come later. But we'll have first Laura present her off-campus housing presentation, and you all can drop your questions in the chat as she goes through, and we'll get to them at the end, or maybe slide by slide, depending on your question. Okay, go ahead, and Laura, take it away.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. Okay, what is everybody seeing? I'm gonna be that Zoom person.
We see it.
Okay.
We see your first slide, and we also see
Great.
your other slides. We see all your slides.
Yeah, I'm not gonna blow it up to fit the whole screen because then it takes away this screen on me. So
Awesome. Okay.
yeah, you get to see all of them at once. Okay, so hi everybody again, my name's Laura. There's a couple of things that I want to kind of clear the air with before we dive in. First of all, I am a UNT alum. I did my undergrad and master's work here. I commuted. I was here during COVID. Now I still commute as a staff member. So I have gone on this apartment hunting journey several times. I've had to deal with commuting for years and years. So I am, not to brag, but I'm a valuable resource if you guys need some help. That being said, I cannot find a place for you. That seems to be a little bit of a misconception sometimes. People will come by my office or they'll call or reach out to me asking me for a place. I cannot do that for you. You have to advocate for yourself in that regard, but I can definitely give you some tips and some resources to help you along the way. Okay, so the first slide that I have here is just my general information. So if you need to get in contact or you're looking for resources, this is the name of my office where it's located. So UU stands for University Union. I'm in the Union, which is in the center of campus on the Denton main campus. And I'm in suite 335. If you need to get in contact with me directly, my email address is ocss@unt.edu. My website is listed right under that. Give me a little grace with the website. We just changed platforms. So I'm trying to go in and edit and make it make sense again. So that's my summer project. But you can find all you need for your off-campus housing search at the bottom website there. So offcampushousing.unt.edu. It is a fantastic site. It is basically apartments.com, but specifically for UNT students. So it's built and curated around the UNT experience in this area of Texas. So it's really, really helpful. On that site too, you can also place ads for roommates. So if you're not able to connect with someone here today and you want to post an ad to try to get connected with a roommate on that site, you can do that as well. You just log in with your UNT credentials and fill out the information. It's very user-friendly, and hopefully that can get you some connections there. Does anybody have any questions for me off the start before we dive in?
Just so you know, Laura, I'll keep an eye on the chat and I'll let you know. Right now, I don't see any questions jumping in the chat, but I'll absolutely help out with that. Sandy and I will help.
Perfect. Okay. So let's dive in here. So the first thing you need to know when you're getting ready to start your apartment or living situation search, which you need to start today, is that there are two different types, main types of rental options for off-campus students. And those are going to be your student living communities and then your regular community rentals. So the difference in those student living communities, first of all, are going to be student exclusive housing. So you have to be enrolled at UNT to be able to fill out an application and get housing in those. Student living communities are also a per bed or per room leasing. So what that means is that you can typically get a 2, 3, or 4 bedroom suite, and there will be 4 bedrooms, and you pay for your bedroom. And that's a fantastic situation, because in the event that a roommate, something comes up, they have to drop out, they have to move out unexpectedly, you then are not responsible for covering their portion of rent. You are only paying for your specific bed or suite, not the entire unit. A lot of times too, and this isn't for every student living community, but sometimes they will also provide furniture, or they will rent furniture to you and kind of like add that into your leasing. For those of you who want to be closer to campus and to have more cost-effective living options, student living communities are really going to be your best bet. Almost all of the student living communities are either within walking distance of campus, or they're within walking distance of a bus route. And the DCTA bus route and the UNT shuttles are free for students with your student ID. So if you do not have to buy a parking pass, I tell everybody, if you do not have to buy a parking pass, do not buy a parking pass. It is expensive, it is frustrating, and it does not guarantee you a parking spot on campus. So if you can avoid that altogether, I highly recommend. Again, a lot of times with the student living communities, your rent price will include the utilities for your bedroom suite. Now again, that is not universal across all of the student living communities, so you really have to do your research on those properties to see if that is included. But a lot of times your rent will include your portion of the unit's utilities. Again, also, they have a lot of those communities will have roommate matching. So if you know that you want to live in a student living community, but you haven't had the opportunity to get connected with a roommate yet, either through your own outreach or through the off-campus housing source website, when you get to the community and you're getting ready to move in, a lot of them will have a form you can fill out with your preferences, and they will match you with a roommate there at the property. So those are some really good options for student living communities. I have the average prices that you would pay for rent down at the bottom. So depending on where you are, that's going to be anywhere from $600 to $1,000 per bed or per bedroom. There are some that offer 1-bedroom units. Again, that's not universal across all the student living communities, so you really have to dive in and do your research on the individual properties based on your needs and wants and what you can afford budget-wise. Apart from that, your more typical community rentals, so whether you're talking about a house, townhomes, apartments, this is going to be a much more expensive option. Those are going to be unit leasing. So if you are looking to have a roommate, you're really going to want to make sure that you and that roommate or roommates, that you're all in it for the entire lease, because if somebody has to leave, then whoever remains is still responsible for the full unit rent price. So that's really something to keep in mind. If you are wanting to be closer to campus, the student living communities are going to be your better bet. That's not to say that there aren't houses or apartments that are close to campus that you can rent, but they will certainly be more expensive. If you are wanting to live closer to the main Denton campus, there are several houses on the exterior of campus that are available for rent, but they are very expensive. And so you will need several roommates to be able to afford those places. And you also, when you're considering houses, you also have to consider where you are, especially if that house is in a neighborhood that has, you know, rules about house upkeep and yards. Do you have the ability to take care of, you know, all of the things that having a house would include? To
Laura,
find,
can I
yes,
stop you?
yes.
Okay, so first of all, we do have a question in the chat, so let me go ahead and read that to you.
Mhm.
This person is asking how many members can be in student living communities per room. So in one room, I believe that's what they're asking, but maybe you can address the different room plans or floor plans, and then also, I don't know what the rule is for that, what this person is asking, if they really mean in one bedroom. And then also, can you point out, I'm not sure these students even realize that these are per month costs as opposed to like a semester, or it just be a little more specific about that.
Yeah. So these are going to be per month costs. So the price is listed down at the bottom. That is what will likely be your share per month. So for the student living communities, your per bed per room leasing, you are allowed to have one person per bed per room. So if you have a suite that has 4 bedrooms, that's 4 people total, one person in each bedroom. And again, they have different, you know, different properties will have different sizes. So some properties will have one suite and you will have one bedroom, or a studio situation. 2, 3, 4. I don't think that I've ever seen a student living community apartment suite that went above 4 bedrooms. I think 4 bedrooms is usually where they cap it. But yes, that is one person per room, paying either anywhere between $600 to $1,000 for that room. Does that answer? Does that make it
Yes,
a little clearer?
yes, the student has said that they understand now. So thank
Okay.
you.
Um, so back to community rentals. Another thing you're going to want to think about is that there are several options as far as especially apartments that are going to be really, really close to campus. But the closer you get to campus in these non-student living community apartments, they are ridiculously expensive. So I know, for example, there's Discovery Park that's right across the street from Discovery Park. There's Epic on Eagle. There's Era just opened up. These are nice, brand new apartments, several bedrooms. However, they are incredibly expensive. So you will need roommates to be able to afford. I can't afford those apartments. I don't know how college students could afford those apartments unless they have several roommates.
And Laura, can I also point out, so my son's also looking for an apartment
Mhm.
right now with his roommate. He has a roommate. And we did look at Discovery Park apartments because just like all of these students that are in our meeting, they're all going to be taking classes at Discovery Park, mostly, almost exclusively.
Mhm.
And so we looked at Discovery Park apartments, and yeah, for a 1 bedroom, it was very cost prohibitive. But for a 2 bedroom, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like if they shared the cost, it was much more
Yes,
reasonable.
it's much more reasonable. So yeah, you need a roommate if you want to live in any of the apartment complexes that are going to be closer to campus. Um, the further out you go from campus, typically the more cost effective you're going to be able to find. For example, I live in Crum because I can't afford Denton, not by myself anyway. And I'm a single occupancy household, so I could not afford within the Denton within the Denton town. Also, the closer you get to Dallas, DFW, the more expensive they're going to be. So you really, really have to, I recommend using several different apartment searching sites. Use our site, use Zillow, use Trulia, use apartments.com. Look at everything to really get a good grasp of what your options are. But then also keep in mind that the further away you go, the harder it will be to get to campus and the more expensive it will be to get to campus, whether you're coming by train, by bus, by car. So when my advice is always, if you're looking for a regular apartment, not a student living community or a house or a townhome, go to my website or go to the DCTA website, download the bus routes, and then look for apartments that are on the bus routes so that you can save that money with gas, with car upkeep, with not having to buy that parking pass because it's going to be crazy expensive, things like
Well,
that.
and not to mention that these are international students, so they would have to get a Texas driver's license before they could even consider
Exactly.
getting a car, and insurance. And
So
but I do want to point out that the Discovery Park apartments, if you can walk over to Discovery Park from there,
mhm,
and they are putting in a light and a crosswalk soon. But
good.
people do it every day. Walk
Please
over
be
from,
careful.
yes, just be careful. And of course, the people coming in and out of Discovery Park are also aware that students are crossing there. Um, and then there is a question in the chat. It's and this they're asking about a limit of members for living in a community apartment, like a community apartment or a community house. Is there, as far as you know, a limit to that?
So that is going to be up to the individual properties. So when you're getting ready to negotiate your lease, there will probably be some language in the lease that talks about how many occupants can be in a unit and what their responsibilities are as far as, you know, contributing to rent, utilities, and things like that. So that's going to be something once you start narrowing down the properties that you're interested in, you're going to want to reach out to the leasing office and ask those types of questions to them because it will vary property to property based on their property guidelines.
Laura, may I ask a question?
As
Would this be specific like to just UNT and Denton, or do you find this to be common across the United States for renting?
This is common across the United States.
Okay.
They don't like for me to say the word crisis at UNT. The communications and marketing people get mad at me. But it is a crisis. We are in a housing crisis right now. So especially in the DFW area, this is a common issue with inflation, with the median income. It is difficult to find cost-effective housing right now.
But it
So
is possible as long as
it's
you
possible.
plan ahead. You have to plan ahead. Don't wait till the last minute. And so we do have a question from Nishit in the chat. And this student is asking, how many semesters do we study in Discovery Park? And I know this isn't a housing question, so I'll go ahead and answer that. Again, it depends on you, but in general, your master's program will take 4 semesters if you follow the normal pattern. So that's 2 years that you would be taking classes at Discovery Park and online. We have hybrid, some online classes, some in-person classes for international students. But you do have to be 2/3, 2 of your classes out of 3 have to be in person at Discovery Park. Occasionally there are classes held on main campus when we run out of space for classes. So it is possible you could have a class on main campus, but most of them will be at Discovery Park. Now you can take up to 5 years to complete your master's degree if you want to, but that's not very cost effective, right? Normally 3 credits per semester will get you done in 2 years.
Yes.
And what if you're not taking classes during the summer? Can you move out of your apartment and not pay while you're gone during the summer if you go back home?
So for the student living communities, there are summer options available. Again, that's going to vary from property to property. Which brings up a fantastic point. So the student living communities, their leasing contracts can vary time-wise. So sometimes you can get a 6-month leasing contract, sometimes 8 months if you are planning on leaving during the summer, or you can do 12 months. So there's more wiggle room with student living communities in that regard if you want to move or leave or change up your situation in a shorter amount of time, or if you're getting ready to graduate early and you don't need the year-round lease. When it comes to community rentals, they are going to be mostly 12-month or 15-month leases. So you're going to be tied into that contract. So if you're going to graduate early, I would look into living in one of the student living communities rather than a community rental, so that you're not having to be tied to a 12-month leasing contract. Yeah.
Got it.
Okay, are there other questions about anything on this page?
I don't see any in the chat right now, so.
Okay. All right, so that slides perfectly into our next little tidbit of information here. First of all, you're going to need to start your search early, and you're going to need to be very, very diligent with it. So I have listed the off-campus housing link right here, but also, again, use all online resources that are available to you, all housing searching options, Zillow, apartments.com, whatever you can find. Make sure that you're looking at that. Also look into, if you're on Facebook, there are a lot of, I can't say them, I'm not allowed, but there are a lot of UNT community Facebook pages that are dedicated to housing roommate searches that people have just kind of started on their own. Those are also really, really great resources, and just a quick little search on Facebook.
Yeah, and let me point out too, Laura, as long as you mentioned Facebook, there's the Mean Green Family and the Mean Green Parent page. Those are not pages on which you can be looking for housing. You do have to go to the housing pages, because your post will be removed from those pages.
Yes, thank you for that point. I will say, though, that those two specific Facebook pages are really, really, really great if you are wanting to read reviews about different complexes.
Definitely. Mean Green Family would be the one that they would go to.
Yes. So I have students call me all the time and ask me, Laura, which apartment complex is the best, or which apartment complex is getting the most complaints. I can't tell you. It is written into my contract that I have to be fair across the board, and I cannot tell you which ones to live in and which ones not to live in. What I can tell you is, please go read reviews. Go to these Facebook pages, look at comments that people are making, look at issues that they're bringing up, and believe them. So if you are coming across one property that you see a lot of people are leaving bad reviews about, you can hang your hat on that's probably true and accurate. I can't confirm it.
But on the other hand, I'd also like to say, because my son's lived in 3 different places there, that and all 3 places had some bad reviews.
Yes.
It's kind of like you get what you pay for, right? So our goal was cheap housing. So we did I shouldn't mention any places, right? But we did a particular place where we knew it was the first stop on the shuttle. By the way, UNT has free shuttles for you that go around to all the student housing, Laura? Most of the student housing?
Most of the student housing, yes.
Okay, so he would take the shuttle, from there, and that was great. But the apartment itself was so-so.
Yeah. So you will, if you go for the student living communities, the lower prices, you're not going to get a newly updated apartment. It's not going to have a lot of amenities. It'll probably have, it'll probably be an older building, with the issues that come with older buildings.
But he was okay with it. It was fine for him. He was happy with it, and we saved money.
Exactly. So that's just something to keep in mind, that if stuff like that is important to you, then that's just something to consider, that you might want to avoid some of the student living communities if you're looking for something that's a little bit more upscale. But then you're going to be paying upscale prices. Also, another thing that I kind of want to throw in there is that because we are seeing nationally a housing crisis, especially when it comes to students in college towns, I have been seeing a lot less effort on the side of the apartment complex, the student living communities, to give outstanding customer service. And that's because they don't need to. They don't need to market as much anymore. They don't need to go over and beyond because they're going to be able to rent out all their rooms regardless. So I get a lot of calls to my office complaining that, leasing manager won't answer my email, or they won't call me back, or this person was rude to me, and that's because they're not desperate to have people come rent from them. So that's something you're going to want to build a tough skin. You're going to want to be really, really diligent. Once you get to Denton, it's a lot harder to ignore someone face to face than it is over the phone. And then when you do start communicating with properties, make sure you are, I would say that the best way to communicate is via email and have everything in writing. Or if you do talk to someone on the phone, follow it up with an email and a summary of what was discussed. You're going to want to keep a record trail in case questions or problems come up later on. Because I guarantee they're not going to do that for you. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to just think about your budget. So what rent price can you afford? What utilities price? Are you going to be commuting, and what that might look like? Roommate contribution, how many roommates you're going to have? Do you have pets? A lot of times, I would say in every most of the student living communities, you're not going to be allowed to have pets unless they are working animals. Subscriptions, Wi-Fi, security deposits, those are all things that you are going to want to go to the property website, make sure you're looking through so that you have a good idea of what you will be paying per month and if it is actually affordable. And a couple of things that I did not include on here, which you're also going to want to consider, is groceries, entertainment. Are you going to want to go down to Dallas on the weekends? What are you going to want to do for your social health? What are you going to do for your physical health? Do you need to get, health insurance, things like that? Those are all personal things that I did not include on here, but those are things you're going to want to think of. And then once you have kind of a baseline idea of how much you're going to be willing to spend per month, then you can start looking. Do not start looking for apartments. Don't go on to any of those websites until you have a budget first, because you will see a pretty one and then you will make your budget fit the apartment. And then that's not a healthy practice. Have the budget first and then find the apartment that fits the budget. You can get yourself into some trouble with that. I speak from experience. When I wanted to live in a pretty apartment instead of an apartment that I could actually afford. Again, utilize all your online resources, read the reviews, believe the reviews that you're reading. Once you get ready to start putting together a lease, make sure that it's going to be a long document and it's going to be a tedious document, but take some time, drink some coffee, put on your glasses and your noise canceling headphones and read through that line by line very, very carefully to make sure that you know what your rights and responsibilities are as a tenant, what their rights and responsibilities are as the apartment complex that's renting to you, and all the different variations of what they're going to be charging you, community guidelines, things like that, so that nothing will surprise you. And if there is something in there that you don't necessarily agree with, you're not 3 months into your leasing contract before finding that out and then unable to get out of that contract. And then this is a huge, huge thing that I want every single person to do, no matter where you end up living. Day one, before you move any furniture in, before you start decorating anything, walk through the unit, walk through each room and take a very, very detailed video of what that space looks like on day one before you have moved anything in. That way, if there are issues, so for example, when I moved into this apartment, I had been here for 3 days and I opened one of the cabinets and the cabinet door fell off. So I put in a work order for someone to come fix my cabinet doors. And then there was a conversation of, well, was that my fault? Or was that the apartment's fault for not having the cabinet fixed correctly before I moved in. So if they decide that that was my fault, then I might be financially responsible for those upgrades and that fix. So make sure you are taking a very, very detailed, get up close on the walls, get up close on the outlets, show everything, take pictures. And make sure that you're getting a clear view of what unit you're moving into before you start decorating and living in that space. You're going to want to be patient. You're going to want to be diligent. This is not the easiest process to navigate. It will take a lot of tedious research. So again, start today, start connecting with people. If you can find someone to connect with today, and y'all can start looking for apartments together, 2 brains are always going to be better than one. You can bounce ideas, you can talk budget, you can have a good idea of what you're looking for going in. All right, questions on this page?
I don't see anything in the chat. And I agree with you that they need to make a connection today with somebody in the room. We have about 15 minutes left. So let's pull up the last slide and see if some of the places that you think they still have vacancy, correct?
Yes. So this is not a comprehensive list of everything in the Denton or Frisco area, but these are the ones that I personally know for sure still have availability. So that first left column, those are going to be student living communities. So those are your student living communities that still have beds available. Please note that I said beds, not necessarily full apartment suites. So, that's a good start, especially considering the poll from earlier and what you guys are most interested in, close to campus, cost effective. You're going to really want to start with that left list. The rest of these are going to be apartment complexes that are within the Denton city limits that I know for sure have availability. But these are going to be further away from campus, except for Epic, Epic and Epic. So Epic on Eagle and Epic Apartments. They're right next to each other. Era is also really close to campus, within walking distance of the Denton main campus. Sorry, the Denton main campus.
And then the Discovery Park apartments, it's very close to Discovery Park, and there's a shuttle that goes every 15 minutes to the main campus.
It goes, back and forth to the main campus. So that's a really good option. Now, the closer we get to school starting, the Discovery Park's going to fill up, and they're going to fill up quickly. I don't know specific numbers of how many units they have left. If they're on this list, I know they have at least one. So if you are wanting to live at Discovery Park, you really need to get on the ball with those today. Again, the further away you go from campus, the more beds are probably going to be available, or the more units are probably going to be available, because people want to be closer to campus so they can afford commuting, or can avoid commuting, excuse me.
Okay, so I recommend that Laura just gave you this great slide. I recommend you all take a photo or save, like get this information onto a photo in your phone so that you can start contacting these places. And Sandy put the link to offcampushousing.unt.edu in the chat. So I recommend you save everything that's been put in the chat. And Laura, did you want to say one more thing before we get them into groups to discuss?
Yes. Well, one last thing, if you are looking at a housing unit that is not a student living community, I highly recommend not disclosing up front that you are a university student. So for example, if you're wanting to look at the apartments on the Loop or 1851 Brinker, and you want to call them just to get more information, don't start off with, hello, my name is Laura and I'm a UNT student looking for an apartment. A lot of time, college students do not have good reputations living in these types of apartments, especially apartments that are more formatted for a family setting. And a lot of times they do not want to advertise to college students to live in their properties. So if you say, hi, my name's Laura, I'm a college student and I'm looking for a living situation, can you tell me more? They're going to say, no, thank you. So I'm not telling you to lie. Please do not lie. If they ask you, please be honest, but don't give up that information right at the top, because a lot of times they'll just shut down the conversation. So that's my last big piece of advice.
And that's for the non-student living, the community living, right? As opposed to the
Yes,
student living. The
that's
student
for,
living expects you to be a student.
yes. That's for the non, I do a housing fair twice a year, and I will send out invitations, and I'll get several apartment properties respond back saying, we don't want college students living here. But and of course they're thinking of the
They're
18.
thinking undergraduate. Yeah, they're thinking
That-
undergraduate.
That's
Of course.
going to be loud and obnoxious, and the typical party college student, that's what they have in mind. So that's
But
just
luckily, that's not ours. Ours are graduate students, and they're serious and they want to study, right, everyone?
they want to have late night study sessions and
Yes.
not have parties. Yeah. So
Exactly.
just my advice is don't disclose, because they could discriminate against that off the top, and we don't want that. So
Okay.
don't say that at the beginning.
Okay. All right. Well, we only have about 10 minutes left. So let's go ahead and, if you'll stop sharing your screen, Laura, I'm going to have everyone turn their cameras on, and well, you don't have to turn your camera on if you don't want to, because it is being recorded, but I did change the settings so that you can unmute yourself. And the reason I've done that, and I did change the settings so that you can turn your camera on if you'd like to. The reason that I did that is because I'm going to put you now into rooms. We're going to go into breakout rooms. And we have about 25 people here. So I'm going to make 5 rooms. In your room, you'll have 5 people, and you can start to discuss some of the questions that Sandy is going to bring up right now. Before I hand it over to Sandy, I do want to point out that you also should be going to the International Orientation Canvas page. All of you have been invited. International UNT, at the UNT level, they have an international orientation, which is required. Thank you, Sandy. Put the QR code in the chat. Make sure that you're doing all your orientation modules. And they also have information about housing in there that can be helpful to you. And they have people, counselors and others. Laura is someone that can be of service to you. And they have international people who can be of service to you to help you with this process. And then in addition to that, I wanted to point out that everybody gets 20 digital points for being here today. I'm keeping, every time we have a pre-arrival meeting, the people who come get points, and then the people who participate get points. So I'm going to put you in rooms, and I want you to email me your contact list of the people that you made a contact with. And if you email me that contact list, you get an additional 20 digital points. Everybody who emails me the contact list. If your name is on a contact list, you get 20 points. So Sandy, do you want to do the little roommate matchup thing now?
Yeah, so let's have a roommate poll. Okay, so everybody, if you can look at the poll and answer the following questions. First question is, what time do you go to bed on a weeknight? So there's 4 options: 10 p.m. or earlier, between 10 p.m. and midnight, around midnight, or 2 a.m. or later. And be honest, because this is the type of information that will be really helpful when you select a roommate and start making these connections in a minute. Does everybody see the poll? Okay. The second question is, where do you typically do your homework? So at your desk, in the library, in a study lounge or similar space, or anywhere that you're with friends. That kind of helps determine what your study habits are and how do you do your homework. The third question is, how would you describe your room? So do you have everything in its place? Are you neat but not too obsessive? Are you slightly disorganized? Are you pretty messy but not terrible? Or are you a hot mess? There's no judgment here, totally okay. It's better to be honest up front than not.
That would be my kids, both of them. And they're 25 and 22, for goodness sake.
People live differently.
Yes.
And the last question here is, what are you hoping for in a roommate? So do you want to be best friends forever and in each other's weddings? Do you want to, build a close relationship or friendship with somebody in this group? If you get along, great. If not, that's okay. You can avoid each other. Do you care about being friends at all? Maybe not, and that's okay too. And the last option is just because you live together doesn't mean you have to hang out. Also totally fine. No issues either way. So go ahead and take a minute to answer these. And then we'll get into our breakout rooms and start looking for roommates.
As a matter of fact, my daughter's getting married next spring, and the girls that are in her wedding were the ones that she roomed with her senior year of college. Yeah, I mean, there's other girls too, and then, but my son, I think he's only friends with one of the. He became very good friends with one of his roommates, and he had a 4-person apartment. So there's all kinds of scenarios. All right.
Are either of you still good friends with your undergrad or grad school friends? I know I am with both. Probably grad school friends more than undergrad.
A handful, I think. I'm more undergrad than grad, I think, because I was already married and pregnant when I was in grad school, so I wasn't really hanging out with them outside of class. What about you, Laura?
Yeah, so my undergrad, I was a transfer student and then COVID happened. So I was living at home with my parents at the time. So friend making was not really was not
Available.
yeah. For grad school, yeah, I still am in touch with several of my friends from graduate school. I did study abroad. And my study abroad friends, like we're still a big group. So
And that's basically what all these people are doing, right? They're doing study abroad. They're coming to the United States. And it's so exciting. And by the way, all the students who have come to us before you some of them have become really best friends. I see them like they hang out all the time and they tell me, I'm graduating, but I have a new best friend and we live in a town near each other. And when we go back to India, we're going to stay in touch. So or maybe if they stay here, they actually move away from Denton campus, they get OPT in a similar area, and then they go ahead and become roommates there. DFW has a lot of OPT options.
yes, they do. So one of my best friends from undergrad that I'm still in touch with, she's an international student and she lives in New York now.
Oh, nice.
That's really nice. Because I could go up to New York and have a place to stay for free.
Where was your friend from? What's her country of origin?
Macedonia.
Oh, Macedonia. You don't hear that very often, right, Sandy?
No, might be the first ever for me.
Okay, only 17 people out of 20 have participated, but let's go ahead and see what the results are. Okay.
So it looks like most people go to bed between 10 o'clock and midnight.
Same.
A lot of people do a lot of studying at their desk. And cleanliness of the space looks like the first 2 options are mostly, yeah, pretty even.
So no one's a hot mess. That's good. It's not really fair to be a hot mess, even if your roommate is also a hot mess. You really should try, right? Because of course,
Respectful of each other's space, yeah.
Yes, and not just that, but you do encourage insect activity in your apartment if you're too messy. Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead now. I would like everyone to at least make sure you can turn on your mic. Can you all unmic? I mean, not unmic, unmute. There we go. Okay, I see how do you say your name? Kathayani? Am I close?
Kathayani.
Okay. Oh yeah, Kathayani. Got it.
Yeah.
So great. Everyone can open their mic. I want to make sure you can open your mic. And if you want to turn on your camera, you can, but you don't have to. I'm putting in the chat right now the link to upcoming informational meetings. These are not required. These are a service to you. Like Laura took time out of her day to be here to help you get information that you needed. And Sandy and I, not every Friday, next week is like visa practice meetings. If anyone wants to meet with me and practice, I'm not an immigration officer. I cannot advise you about what you should and shouldn't say, but I can certainly listen to what you say and say, oh, maybe you should, do some more research on the website about our program, or, I can give you resources that you can add so you can beef up what you say. And I can also listen to you and maybe say, oh, I didn't understand that word. Can you say it differently? Because I am an ESL teacher, right? I've been an ESL teacher my whole life. And I know you all speak English, but the accent's a little different. You guys learned British English and we speak American English here. So feel free to email me if you want to do that. And Sandy, do you mind dropping my email in the chat?
Sure.
While she's doing that, I'm going to go ahead and set up the breakout rooms. And Laura, it's almost 9 and you've given us a whole hour, so you can feel free to log off. If anyone has another question for Laura, she gave you her contact information. You can email her directly. Is that fair? I think you probably have other things to do today.
All right,
So
well,
let's
yeah, that's great.
let's give a round of applause to Laura and thank her for her time. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you all very much. Yeah, again, feel free to contact me through ocss@unt.edu. I would give you my phone number, but to be honest, I'm in meetings most all day, every day.
You're gonna do better with email. I know,
I'm
me
gonna
too.
do better with email.
Yeah,
So,
I check my email all the time. Most UNT people do, and they'll get to you. And there's my email in the chat. Okay, I'm creating the breakout rooms right now. So go ahead and go to your breakout room as soon as I open them, and you can talk. I want you to open your mic, open your camera, and talk to the people in the room and exchange contact information. And remember, if you send me an email with your new best friends, then you'll get an additional 20 digital points. Here we go.
all right.
And bye, Laura. Thank you so
Bye.
much. We really
you.
appreciate you. I see it put you in a room, Sandy, but obviously you won't go. I wonder if I should move one of these bigger room people to
Yeah, it looks like I'm supposed to go to room 4, but
just stay here.
Yep.
They'll have 3 people in there, hopefully. Maybe they'll even talk more because there's only 3 of them. Okay, so please accept your room. If you don't see it, go down to the bottom of your screen. There's 4 little boxes. You can click on it and you'll see the room that you've been invited to join. And you can go there. You can click on join room. Your professors will probably use this function in their Zoom classes when you have a Zoom class. So it's good to practice now. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, I think.
there's still a couple of people here. Does anybody need help?